Tekken's Nina Williams in Death by Degrees, Metascore 51. The worst scoring game in the Tekken franchise is Death by Degrees, which features Nina Williams as the lead protagonist of an action-adventure game. The combat system differed from the mainline fighting games, implementing the analog sticks similarly to Jet Li, Rise to Honor. Unfortunately, it lacked the fluidity of Jet Li's game. The mechanics are awkward, the camera angles are terrible, and the combos are far too challenging and confusing. Death by Degrees seems like a rushed attempt to capitalize on Dead or Alive-style fan service with over-the-top costumes, bikinis, and silly massage oil mechanics. Tekken 3D, Prime Edition, Metascore 64. Seeing Namco's flagship fighter running on the 3DS and looking as good as it did is impressive. Including all 41 of Tekken 6's roster is equally as substantial on the little handheld. However, the title was criticized at launch, resulting in the 3DS version becoming the lowest scoring game for the series. Furthermore, Tekken 3D lacked decent single-player modes, and the online multiplayer is unreliable and laggy. There is little to no replay value, which is a shame because Tekken 3D Prime is one of the best-looking titles for the system. Tekken Hybrid, Metascore 65. Tekken Hybrid is a compilation of the Tekken Tag Tournament HD Remaster, a demo of Tag Tournament II, and a Blu-ray of the movie Tekken, Blood Vengeance. The original Tekken Tag Tournament was a PS2 launch title and a great multiplayer game. Unfortunately, fans expected the couch co-op fun to be extended to online multiplayer. The visuals are upscaled, and Tekken Tag was still as fun as it ever was, but selling the game as a full-price game was excessive, thanks to the poor effort put in by Namco. Tekken Revolution, Metascore 70. It is hardly worth mentioning the PS3 title Tekken Revolution. The game is no longer available and was not a favorite among fans. Tekken Revolution came out when the PS3 was on its last legs, and the series seemed to want to bow out with a treat for PS fans. However, it turned out to be not as much an original game as it was copying Tekken Tag Tournament. The only alert at getting Tekken Revolution was that it was a free game and could easily be downloaded. Other than that, there isn't anything here that players haven't played before. Tekken, Metascore 75. Remember, Metacritic didn't have a score for the original due to how dated it is, but this rating is from GamerRankings.com, the site that has now merged with Metacritic, so the rating still applies. Apart from that, one does understand why the score is relatively low. This was released when the series wasn't as established as Street Fighter, or even the Virtua Fighter series. Tekken was mainly a vehicle that showcased the strengths of 3D combat in arcades and the PS1. The result was still satisfying, as characters like Kazuya and Paul shined through. Tekken IV Metascore 79. Focusing on the story aspect has worked wonders for games of different genres, but the gamble didn't play out so well for Tekken. The fourth installment suffered from taking a step back from the explosive action and focusing on the plot. It is a shame critics did not appreciate this turn, though, as Tekken 4's story is one of the best in the fighting game genre. Gameplay-wise, Tekken 4 also faced criticism for the terrain available, as moving higher meant players were at a significant advantage compared to those on lower ground. On the other hand, the character models did receive some praise. Tekken Advance, Metascore 82. No, that is not a low-quality picture above. This is precisely what Tekken Advance looked like. At the time, the Nintendo Game Boy Advance was hopelessly outmatched in graphics compared to home consoles, so this was the best players could get. It's also a non-canonical entry in the series, so players didn't need to immerse themselves in the plot since it was irrelevant. However, the entertainment value received was good despite limited controls and a small roster. Repeated plays brought enough attachment for the player to keep continuing. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 Metascore 82. The 7th generation wasn't the best for the Tekken series, as its simultaneous release across platforms meant it couldn't stand out compared to PS and Xbox exclusives released around the same time. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 served as a way of bringing old fans back. Here, players had the most extensive roster available, as characters like Jun Kazama, among others, returned after a long hiatus. It was not a bad game, but it was hardly revolutionary enough to be memorable. Then again, having multiple characters on hand is always fun in a fighting game. Tekken 6 Metascore 82. The series' introduction in the 7th generation of consoles didn't live up to the mark set by its immediate predecessor, as Tekken 6 turned out to be an okay release in a franchise that had seen many highs and few lows. The criticism was chiefly attributed to the character of Azazel, a generic monster with a bevy of moves to overcome the defensive player. Tekken 6 did a fine job with the Rage mode and the upgrade in customization features. Tekken 7 Metascore 82. Fans had to wait about a decade before this one was made available on consoles, and it was perhaps this hype that made Tekken 7 seem on par with its similarly average predecessor. Thanks to the graphical quality on display, it is easily the best-looking Tekken yet. The downsides involved the ho-hum story mode that failed to deliver on the expectations of closure provided by Namco before the game's release. It has aged well, though, since characters like Negan from The Walking Dead have made it more versatile with time. Street Fighter X Tekken, Metascore 84. This was more of a Street Fighter game than a Tekken entry, but there's still the fact that characters from the latter series were featured here. There was supposed to be a Tekken X Street Fighter, but that never materialized. This crossover wasn't as popular with Tekken fans due to the presentation and fighting styles being those found
in a Street Fighter game. But there is no denying that having matchups between characters like Ryu and Jin didn't have a quality of its own. It's the best game to bring together fans of either series.
Tekken V. Dark Resurrection, Metascore 85. Tekken V. Dark Resurrection is a near-perfect port of the fifth mainline entry. However, Dark Resurrection adds extra features, like new character customization and a renewed ranking system. More importantly, it adds Armor King 2, Emily, and Sergei as new playable characters. Dark Resurrection was ported to the PS3 later via the PSN and featured upgraded visuals. Unlike the 3DS version, the PSP release provides an incentive to go back and play the game with multiple modes. There is an arcade mode, Tekken Dojo mode, league matches, and tournament matches. Tekken Tag Tournament, Metascore 85. At launch, the Tekken Tag Tournament was an evolutionary step in the fighting genre with its tag team mechanics. The opportunity to play more than one character at a time was too good to pass up, and critics lauded Tekken Tag Tournament for bringing a never-before-seen entertainment value to the series. The story mode had some genuine input from the developers, so playing through this brought a different side of the characters regardless of being a non-canon entry in the Tekken series. However, there are issues with its balancing and featuring too many overpowered fighters. Tekken II Metascore 89. Anybody would be blown away by a sequel that stepped up so drastically from the original, and this was the effect on critics when Tekken 2 arrived. The vast assortment of environments was thematically an improvement over its predecessor. It was also the first game to feature supernatural elements in the fighting mechanics. This brought in a nice variety of fighting styles to choose from. Although graphics certainly look a notch below compared to now, it wasn't much a problem back then. Tekken V 2005 Metascore 89. As one can see from the picture alone, Tekken V was when things got bigger and better as the Mishima family's twisted history became even more engaging. The level designs were much more gorgeous than ever. Even today, one would not notice any problems. This time around, it was the soundtrack that got the adrenaline pumping. Every location had an extra flavor. Characters seemed like they belonged rather than being shoehorned in, and many hours can be spent perfecting their move sets. Tekken III Metascore 96. Over 2 decades since its release, it does not seem like there is another Tekken game that will even come close to achieving the score Tekken 3 garnered. This entry could be spoken in the same breath as games like Soul Calibur or Street Fighter. It is hard to explain what makes Tekken 3 an excellent fighting game. At the time, the story felt like a breath of fresh air and how the roster was revitalized with youthful energy. It looked and played much better than its predecessors and has multiple entertaining gaming modes for fans. One can only hope the series brings in originality as the third installment did once again in the future. That's the all series. Comment down your favorite series and don't forget to subscribe.